Hello and welcome to the Garden of Truth. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. Today, I'm going to continue to talk about the pillars of Islam. And the pillars are really like the actions of Islam, So again, the very beginning of it is the Shahada when you enter into the fold of the path, and then the prayer and fasting Ramadan, which we've begun, and that's pretty awesome. And then let's see, what else? Oh, the Hajj in a lifetime if you're able. And then today I wanted to talk about Zakat, the alms giving. So Zakat, when we say alms giving, some people say it's a tax. And then also people, I think incorrectly, translate it as sadaqah, but it's charity. It's more than just a charity. It's a charity that God has asked us to give, and it's a particular amount, 2.5% on your wealth for a full year, and that was intended, like God has intended for that to be used for a certain category of people, and that is a way for those who God has given a solid amount of provision for, to be able to take care of those who Allah has held back some of the provision for. And so this is a way of a balance. It's a social balance, if you will, for the economic or the socio-economic stability of a community. And then beyond zakah, then charity is also encouraged. So the zakat itself, though, is something that God has commanded to be given. And in fact, from my teacher, Sheikh Abdul Qadir As-Sufi, one of the essential points of his lessons, may Allah be pleased with him, he's passed away a few years ago. One of his essential points of teaching about zakah is that what is necessary to fulfill it is to have a leader among you. And that leader, the Quran says to take the zakah, to take this. And so basically what it does is it appoints the leader among the people to have the responsibility to make sure that it's taken in and then distributed properly among the people who fall into different categories of needy or people who need help. And so that the reason why Shaykh Abdul Qadir, may Allah be pleased with him, emphasized the necessity to have a leader who takes this is because that essentially establishes authority among a people. And it puts a responsibility on this particular person within that group to be able to keep, to be connected to those who need and those who can give, to have an understanding of the balance between the community, those who need and those who can give, and then to be able to properly distribute that among those people. The thing, and so that's one element of the zakah that my teacher used to focus on. And another part of it was that traditionally the zakah was paid in gold or silver, definitely in a commodity. So even if it wasn't, so wealth was measured always in gold and silver. And then there are other categories actually of livestock and different agricultural items and things like that are all measured and weighed differently in as far as a person's wealth is considered. And so the leader of the community has to be aware of those things as well. And while if the group is a small group, then that leader of the community can take care of this whole affair themselves. Or if it's a large group of people, then they can also appoint individuals to be able to assess who should be giving and who should be receiving. And so those are some of the very important things. The 2.5% on wealth that you've had for a year is how it's measured. And then if a person doesn't have that type of wealth, there's a word called the nisab, which is like it's the tilting point, essentially. The people who don't have that much are the ones who then are eligible for receiving it, the zakat. And there are stories of, the ages of through which the Muslims were well established. And when zakat was properly done, there were times when not only did all of the Muslims who needed the zakat, it would take care of them, and then there was more still, and they would take care of anyone who needed, and then in the whole society. And then beyond that, there were a couple of times in history where the zakat was so plentiful that the leaders actually came up with a program where they would leave a certain amount of wealth in the streets, like a pile of wealth, to be able to allow for people to just like come and take from it as they needed, only because they had given to everybody that they could. And then beyond that, they would even they'd fulfill all the needs of all the categories, and then even go to the point of paying for helping people, give them an endowment for getting married, and getting people established that way. So it's amazing, because if it's done properly, basically what the bottom line of that is all about, is that if it's done properly, then essentially there will be enough wealth to take care of most everybody's needs. And but we've come to a point, like in time now, where this is a very important topic for the Muslims, especially because, alhamdulillah, praise be to God, Muslims are very good generally about making sure that their prayer is done properly and things like that they fast well and fulfill all those things, and make the Hajj if they can. And of course, the Shahada is a testimony of faith that's given over and over again in the life. It's how you enter Islam, but it's also reiterated in a person's life over and over again. And so all of the pillars of Islam are there pretty strongly, but zakah has in it some elements that could be done better. And it's kind of interesting, because in modern times, we see kind of an so first of all, how did we get to where we're at? I guess let me get there. Is that we live in a time currently where the institution of authority has been kind of dismantled, not just kind of. Essentially, like, there is no one Muslim leader among the Muslims anymore. There used to be a caliph or a sultan, and that one leader kind of set the precedent for the whole community of Muslims everywhere in the world. And then there would be, like local governors or amirs who would, stay in contact with that authority that would go over all of the Muslims everywhere. That has been dismantled. So, and when was that done? That was done between the World War I and World War II, and the Ottoman Sultanate was dismantled and replaced by secularism. And then at that time, essentially, all of the Muslim countries were all one. They were considered one Muslim nation from anywhere where they were in the world. If you were in Africa or if you were in China, and they were all considered under one kind of leadership. But that was all dismantled, and so just maybe 1 or 2 years, over 100 years ago, the last Ottoman Empire, or last Ottoman Sultan, was exiled, and then secularism was put in, and then all of the Muslim countries were parsed out, different boundaries were drawn, and they were all drawn by the colonialists. And so where there were no boundaries before, all of a sudden nation states were drawn, lines of, nation state were drawn. And then, just to go further, with the whole colonial thing, is that each place was given their own ball team, their own flag, their own, kind of like independent ideas and government and things like that. And then they were taught to essentially kind of haggle with each other or fight with each other, or really just, the whole thing was just a colonial chess game. And they have been winning that game for quite some time. I think really it's about time for the Muslims to realize what has been done, and to wake ourselves up and start to make decisions for ourselves, because the whole colonial process was to decolonize, and they wouldn't decolonize until they had the people essentially doing the systems that they wanted in place. So, or they would put some kind of a puppet there, or, anyway, all this kind of political manipulation. All of that to say that some of the institutions within the Muslim societies that were very beneficial to all of the society, Muslim and non-Muslim, were dismantled one by one and kind of disappeared. And Zakat is one of those things. So it seems to me intentional that in our day today, many people have the idea, the understanding that Zakat is supposed to be some type of just a charity, a type of charity that you just give if you want to, and if you want to go, so far as to, figure out the 2.5% of where you're at and stuff like that. But it kind of puts the onus on the individual, as the whole Western world's kind of individualization of everybody, and so if you stop and reflect upon it, this is exactly the reason why my sheikh was always making an emphasis on this, is that you establish authority among a people by establishing zakah properly. And if you use gold and silver for that as well, you decouple yourself, you take yourself off of the train of the usurious capitalistic mess that we all live under and oppression throughout the world, And so uncoupling ourselves from that is a type of freedom that we've not known for over 100 years, if you can think about that. So it would take for us to think outside the box of how it is that we Muslims could actually take care of ourselves and each other by properly implementing zakah. So it's a topic, so it's one of the pillars of Islam, but it has in it, so much to learn. And it's actually not too complicated. Really, it's not. But it is something very important to us all. And that's zakat. That's what I got to say about it right now. I'm sure I'll probably, bring it into other topics later on. So time is going by on this video. I'll try to keep it as short as I can. And I thank you for joining us on the Garden of Truth, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Peace.